Hi, this is a quick addendum to my Metroidvania Castlevania retrospective. There have been some updates. 3 of the 8 games that I covered in my retrospective have been released from the doomed fate of Nintendo DS exclusivity. Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, and Order of Ecclesia are re-released for the very first time as the Castlevania Dominus Collection, which in name refers to a story thing in Order of Ecclesia, and as many people are realizing for the first time, has likely always been a kind of wordplay of DS. Like, you can imagine it stylized like the Doom logo. Anyway, this would be huge if this was a good new way to experience these games, but it is not. No, it is far and away the best version of each game in the trilogy. M2, the developer of the past 2 Castlevania collections, really hit it out of the park with this one. These DS games, by default, have a gameplay screen and a stats screen, and in each game you can press select to switch between viewing the stats on the stats screen or the current area map. M2 somehow hacked these games into displaying both stats screens at once, making the games in this trilogy 3-screen video games, if you want them to be. There are also great screen sorting options. You can take it back down to 2, change the positioning, and there are even maximum visibility modes as well as pixel-perfect display modes, which is great. The 3-screen thing cannot, at least right now, be replicated in normal DS emulation. This collection also treats the games well where it comes to 3D elements. Each game has some 3D elements in their graphical styles, which usually manifests in backgrounds and particle effects. The 3D stuff is not tied to the pixel grid resolution of the DS, and it looks good in HD. Some Nintendo DS emulators can do this with the 3D graphics, but not most, so this is a really cool thing to see implemented in the collection. Look, M2 even went out of their way to remake button graphics to match all modern controller options. Now, if you are familiar with these games, you might be wondering about the touchscreen gimmicks featured in all 3 games. M2 has you covered. The most intrusive of these touchscreen gimmicks, the magic seal mechanic from Dawn of Sorrow, has been retooled to be a button sequence instead, which is a fantastic way to improve the clearly flawed mechanic without cutting it completely. One of the most popular ROM hacks of Dawn has always been one that simply autofills the magic seals for you, removing that system from the game completely, except for the lock and key aspect. But keeping it in with button presses is really cool. It's a great compromise. On PC, you can use a mouse to do some of the touchscreen things these games have, but better than that, an analog digital cursor was added that simply uses the right analog stick with 3 different speed settings. This is a huge win for accessibility of the weird features in these games. This collection is so good. It's a steal for $25, the same price as the Advance collection. A lot of work went into the making of this collection on M2's part, and the polish shows. Oh, and by the way, the Dominus Collection also comes with a brand new Castlevania game developed by M2. In the bonuses for this collection, M2 and Konami include the original Haunted Castle arcade game, which you don't want to play because it is bad. However, it is paired with the new Haunted Castle Revisited, which is a full reimagining of Haunted Castle that turns it into a pretty good, short Castlevania game. The soundtrack of this newest Castlevania game is by Chibi-Tech, so that's awesome. If you didn't know, M2 also developed the fantastic Castlevania The Adventure Rebirth, which came out in 2009 and is still at the moment a WiiWare exclusive. The Adventure Rebirth was a similar deal, itself a reimagining of Castlevania The Adventure for original Game Boy. So the Dominus Collection is a massive W. It is wonderful to see these great games getting another chance in the spotlight. All 3 of the main games in this collection are top-tier Metroidvania genre games. An expanded audience through much better availability and accessibility is just what these games needed. In other news relating to my Metroidvania Castlevania retrospective, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is complete. It got its last DLC and updates, except for a promised performance improvement patch, which is still coming, I guess. The last major update was a new paid DLC, the sequel to Bloodstained Ritual of the Night Classic Mode, which is called Classic Mode 2, Dominique's Curse. This new classic-type Castlevania game, developed by WayForward just like the first Classic Mode, is really good. Classic Mode 1 is sort of a new, legally distinct remake of Castlevania 1, and Classic 2 is a reimagining of Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. And it's really good. It turns out that a Simon's Quest type game with modern quality of life features like a warp system can be really fun. The combat design is top-notch. I definitely recommend playing Classic Mode 2 if you're a Bloodstained fan who is on the fence about paying extra for a DLC bonus game. I played it so much that I was even the world record speedrun holder for its shortest category for about a week. That was fun. And that's it. Those are the updates. Time for me to go back to making one YouTube video every 6 months. If you want to learn about more cool things in the Castlevania DS trilogy, I have about 16 minutes on that topic in my Metroidvania Castlevania retrospective, linked below and on this video itself. Expect a video from me about Castlevania 1 someday.